So, welcome. It is Monday, the 16th of May, 2022, and it is 10 p.m. UK time. It is 7 a.m. in Australia, specifically Sydney, Australia, because that's where my guest is, but more about her in a minute. In the meantime, this is episode 21. Yes, 21 episodes of Part of My Journey. It seems like a long time ago, but also like yesterday since I started the show. But here we are, 21 episodes in, and every guest has been open and honest about their experiences, about their life, about their mental health, about what's going on in general. But, thank you to everyone who's been on the show. If you're watching this on Twitch, hit that follow button. If you're watching it back on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It's all free. And if you're listening on Mixcloud, hit that follow button. But without further ado, from Sydney, Australia, it is DJ D. Woo!
Hey, cheers! I'm having breakfast.
It's breakfast time and evening to Mark
Hey,
Lancaster.
Mark.
I know it's a late one for Mark, so I don't know if he's going to manage to see much of the show. But
let's see how we go. We'll try and keep it entertaining for you.
And look who it is, Constance Kay.
Hey, sis!
A big announcement was on Facebook today. So congratulations.
Do you know? I only saw one post today before coming on here. Congratulations! That's amazing. It's I was so excited.
It is.
My sister with vinyl. She's gonna be a mama.
I know. I was privy to the information when I met Adam and Constance up in London at the end of March. But obviously, it was still early days. But yeah, it's great that the news of that. Another incredible 45 kid on the way.
How amazing is that going to be? Seriously. Oh, it's so good.
With the beats that Constance knows and the scratching that Adam had,
that's what I'm picturing.
It's going to be amazing. We will talk a lot more about the 45 kids when we get there because, like you, I was watching back the 45 kids talk show where DJ O was on it.
I almost spat my coffee out just then.
Yeah, well, I was watching it, and there's a couple of clips we'll play later. But yeah, I was watching it in here. And
can I say thank you for doing that? Because I really wanted to do that and I ran out of time. So you're an absolute legend.
There's just a couple of clips. I don't know if we've chosen the same clips, but they're quite funny. But yeah, so I was sitting here watching it this morning while I was doing a bit of work, and I was like, right, okay, I'll find a couple of clips. And then I could hear my wife laughing in the other room at the stuff that was going on. And I'd forgotten how funny it was. But we'll get there.
I was losing it. I was honestly losing it the other day watching it back. It was, oh my goodness. I ended up having a comedian basically. So yeah. He's a little comedian since he was a baby. It's ridiculous.
He's brilliant. I felt a little sorry for the Sunday Get Down. I think they were like, what is going on?
I was happy. Kids. I was happy they were still laughing. So that was, thumbs up. It was all good.
They had a good time. Right, it's early morning for you. How are you doing? I mean, you're normally a night owl.
Yeah,
so I've been up late. What's it like being up early?
Cold. It's starting to get cooler here now. So definitely feeling it. But it's a strange thing, right? It's cold weather, but the humidity is still high. So it's really odd. Yeah, we've never had so much humidity, I think, here locally. So that's probably not the fun part, but all good. Yeah, it is early for me. I often go to bed 5 or 6 or, and then get a couple hours sleep, and then the little guy's up, and lucky he doesn't get up at 7, so it's a good thing. Well, but slowly, Mama is slowly shifting to normal time because, the little guy's about to start school. So, because he hasn't officially gone face-to-face yet. We've done this year at home just with everything that was happening with, COVID and whatnot. And we were still kind of a little bit earlier on in the year up and down here. Amongst a few other things, like he just physically wasn't quite ready. So, he's going to be starting mid-year, which is coming up real quick. And so I'm getting back to the normal schedule, getting up more like at 5, getting ready I guess in a little while, pack school lunches and all that sort of stuff. So, getting ready for that time,
You've got it all to come.
Such a big change, such a big change.
It is a big change when they suddenly go to school because they just suddenly grow up really quickly. Especially, I don't know, I assume is it uniforms for school over there?
Yes, it is. But it looks cool, which is good.
Yeah. I think as soon as they're all in their uniforms, they all suddenly look a lot older than they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, it's true, isn't
A lot
it?
smarter. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, you sort of touched on a couple of points. Let's sort of start maybe there. That might be the thing. Obviously, this is part of my journey. We talk about mental health, good mental health, bad mental health, things that have gone on, and also things that help us get through the day to day. Because obviously, one of the things having kids is that, and I can see you're edging back to your records, which we will come back to. But obviously, you're part of the issue you've had in Australia is you guys were properly locked down for a lot of the time.
Like ridiculously
Yeah,
when and here's the hard part. Different areas had different rules.
yeah,
So some of us, like we happened to fall in, even though down the road, which is like, if you go by car 2-3 minutes away, my sister is.
right.
That sounded like Yoda just then. Sorry, this is my waking up brain. 2-3 minutes down the road, she had totally different rules, and there
Right.
were things like as extreme as only one person from your household can go shopping. So we nominated my husband,
Yeah.
and to the point where obviously to do deep cleans and things, the shops were closing early, and my husband works late hours, so there were often times where we had to like get really inventive for food, and even just sort of live off the local servo. So yeah, it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. It's not something I'm keen, or I think a lot of people are keen to go back to. And
And
of course, indoors for what was at that point in time half of DJO's life. So
crazy.
yeah,
Isn't it?
it's nuts when you think of it that way. Yeah, definitely. Literally 2 years of his life in the house, on and off, because we did have a little bit of a break in between there, but then we went straight back in. So yeah, look, we're I think hopefully we're at the tail end of that, and things are still. There's still, people wearing masks and caution and precautions and things like that, but it's feeling a little bit more normal again, which is such a nice thing.
I
To
mean,
just to even go to the local store and Brooklyn can get a Hot Wheels or something. Just doing simple
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that is all we wanted to do anyway. So yeah, it's nice to get back to that. And yeah, we had a big shop last night, and we got some of the requirements for today, as well as a few other things like Hot Wheels and books, and almost got some Lego.
Right.
And yep, there's Lego still all over the floor here. So not much has changed since we last spoke for that 45 kids
No, there's a lot of
session.
Lego talk on the 45 Kids talk show.
Yes,
But and
still.
I think one of the things you said is any parent who's got children will know the pain of stepping on Lego.
Oh yes. And then
And
I
obviously
think
it's
if
everywhere.
I'm correct, I think Mr. Lobb said sitting on it was worse.
He did, yeah. Bless him. But yeah, I mean, Lego's brilliant, and I just remember DJ telling us about his Mario Lego.
Yeah, he still loves his Mario, but
Yeah,
he's always loved cars, and that's no surprise looking at his mum and dad, because we both have classic
yeah.
cars. So
Well, that's another
yeah,
area we will get. There's so much to talk about. So
oh,
much to
so
talk about.
much.
And Mark Lancaster, he says he wished he still had his Hot Wheels.
How
Uh,
awesome is that? Do you know my husband? He's actually got one literally from the 70s. He was born in
wow,
75, and
same as
like the
me.
wheels
Same as
are
me.
all bent and all that. But oh my goodness, how it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, just they were built different back then. No
Wow, yeah.
plastic,
No,
no
exactly,
plastic.
exactly. And I know Double P likes classic cars as well, and
Hey,
he's been
big
doing up a
ups to
couple.
Minimal P as well.
Yeah, Mini P, another of the 45 kids.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, well let's talk about that 2 years inside. In terms of how you dealt with having him indoors. How did you entertain him? How did you keep him sort of stimulated? How did you stop going out of your mind? With sort of being stuck inside.
We're actually pretty lucky here. I think this when we purchased this house quite some time ago, I kind of walked in those front doors and said, "This is going to be deemed the fun house. No matter what,
Yep.
this is the safe place, the safe space, the fun space." So we've always had a lot of entertainment here. Obviously, the music is one thing, but we do love our retro gaming. So for our first anniversary, I got one of those arcade games built up, the two-seater ones.
Oh
And
wow,
it's literally got like 400 games from the 80s on there.
brilliant.
So it's a walk back in time, as well as, I've still got my original Nintendo from the 80s, as
Yeah,
amongst other things, Donkey Kongs and things like that. So we were well entertained. But not only that, I think just my process of having DJO, we were already real well trained for staying in. We kind of spent the first 7 months pretty much in the house,
right,
for a number of reasons. One, for health, for things that I was going through post birth,
right.
and I think we were already kind of used to that life. So we got through okay. I think a lot of people that I know were finding it really hard. And my response was usually just like, this is kind of how we live anyway, apart from a
Yeah,
couple of trips to like Kmart or Big W or, those sort of department stores. It's kind of sort of what we did, regardless of maybe some get-togethers for a birthday or whatnot. That's really the thing that was missing, I think, for us. Some cruising, some birthdays, and yeah. So I think we all got through really well. Hubby even worked from home for the most part. He's obviously back to work now, but yeah. So if anything, we kind of took it as a little bit of a and using this very loosely, a little bit of a blessing in terms of being able to spend time together. Because when hubby's at work, we don't get to see him so much, and he comes
yeah,
home quite late. Being a vocal trainer, he does a lot of evening sessions as well. So he'll come home at like 10 p.m. or whatnot, and then we get a little bit of daddy,
yeah,
and Brookie goes to bed way too late, and then yeah, they get up way too late, and we do it all again. So
yeah.
it was kind of a really good thing for us because we were together 24/7, which is something that we've never really had before. So I think we really enjoyed that part. We didn't actually surprisingly drive each other crazy like one would think you
No.
might, but yeah, I think we just really made the most of it as best as we could.
It's I mean, it's an interesting one because I think working from home, I still work from home quite a lot because I can, because of
Why
what I
not?
do. And even just being able to go to the kitchen and say hello, if Zia's there or if Claire's there,
That's
just
it.
to say hello, have a quick
That's
five
it.
minute chat and then back to work, and you don't have that at work.
Yeah. No.
And I think that means quite a lot. And it's interesting here because the government seems to be obsessed with getting everyone back to the office because
Yeah.
that's how the government's going to make more money or whatever their plan is. But I think people have seen what it's like to be able to do this sort of hybrid working at the office sometimes, working at
Oh
home.
yeah.
And I think for your mental health, I think it's definitely better
Mm.
because you're in your safe space. And like you say, you've got a home there that is your safe space. And
It's
it's just,
comfortable. You
as
can
long
do
as you
what you want.
yeah, and as long as you can
You know.
still do the work that you're required to
That's
do,
it.
then what difference does it make? Whether you're sitting here or sitting in an office down the road, wherever
That's
it
it.
is. But
Exactly.
it's so important. I think home is where everything starts, really. And if you can make it homely and make it so your children want to be there, that's I think the most important thing going forwards. Definitely.
Totally. Because if anything, this is their safe space. If
Yeah.
something funny happens out that way, they know they can always come back here and feel okay and be protected and looked after. And, that's number one for me anyway. So,
Yeah. And it's important.
yeah.
It's important from this age, but I think also, at some point we're going to have teenagers,
Oh, gosh.
which is crazy. I mean,
I
it's not
can't
that long.
even.
I know it's not that long for Zia, probably about 6 years or something. And
Oh, gee.
again, it's nice to be able to sort of build somewhere that she wants to be and hang out. And I think going
Exactly.
forwards, that's hopefully going to help all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, how did Brooklyn take it? I guess he didn't know any different for those 2 years. Was he
I'm
okay?
sort of one of those mums that doesn't really hide too much, so I would explain things to him as much as I
Yeah.
possibly could with his understanding at that point. Now, at this point, he understands absolutely everything. There's no kind of misunderstandings or whatnot. But back then, at the age of 2 going on 3, their understanding is a little bit more limited. So
Yeah.
the explanations and the descriptions were a bit more basic, but he understood. And I can't say he always listens to mummy, but
Yeah.
when it's serious talk time, he does, and he takes it. Maybe he doesn't agree with everything, but he does take it and he understands, and that's the number one thing for me. So yeah, I just sort of explained why we couldn't go to the playground, why we couldn't
Yeah.
leave the house, and that hey, it's not necessarily even at lockdown time. It wasn't mummy's rules,
Yeah.
it was the
Yeah,
rules for
exactly.
everyone. So yeah, so he got it. I think there were a few points where definitely there was a bit of frustration there for him, just for to be able to play with other kids and things like that. But that's where things like what you've done with 45 kids really helped. And things like obviously FaceTiming his friends and
Yeah.
having a chat with them on the phone. He'd grab mummy's phone and run to the other room and you can hear them just, giggling and squealing away. And all of that sort of stuff really helped make it feel kind of not so bad and a little bit kind of in a weird way normal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think he's done well. Now, I think the challenge for us is going to be getting him used to being out there again, which, he is
Another
slowly.
whole thing. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's still going to be a bit of a shock for him when he starts school because that's a big, 5 days a week, all day, every
Yeah.
day without mum, and of course without dad too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's the bit that I'm just like, oh, I hope he's going to sort of take to it. I think he'll be okay.
I think
You
he'll
know,
thrive. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Once
he
he
will
starts,
too. I
uh,
think that the mum brain always has that thing in the back of the head, like, oh, I
yeah,
hope they're going to be okay. And,
he'll start telling some jokes, and then
oh,
he'll be fine.
he'll take over teaching the classroom. That's going to happen.
Um, but again, similar to Zia, and I don't think it's what created the 45 kids or anything else. But obviously, he's an only child, Zia's an only child. So again, through lockdown, it was that
Yeah.
interaction with other children that
Yes,
was the in for us as parents the sort of saddest thing in a way, because she just wanted to play, and obviously we're adults and you can only play so much, and it's not
that's
the
it.
same as
Hmm.
playing with kids of your own age. And I think
That's
that's the
what I'm
thing that
talking about.
it probably affected her more. And so now she's thriving with other kids, and
I'm
all the other
loving
stuff she
that.
does.
And the
It's
gigs
definitely.
as well is incredible.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about one, because I've got a photo here. This is it's DJO Record Store Day.
Oh, you found. I haven't even. Oh, yeah. I was going to say I haven't even shared some of these yet. This is so cool. Such a moment
Yeah.
for us. And yeah, his first ever face to face gig. And yeah, I can't say it was not a super packed store or anything like that, but the vibe was there. And
Yeah.
I do have a little bit of video from it too, which I'll share at some stage. And yeah, I think we had probably a maximum of like 10 people in the store, but man, those 10 people were going off.
But
And
it's 10 people listening to a 5-year-old kid
throw down
playing
sevens.
vinyl. I mean, it still blows my mind every time I sort
Yeah.
of think about what these kids are doing.
Well, he did actually. The majority of the set was sevens, but he did have to kick off with one that was off at 12,
Oh,
only because it was his request, and he
yeah,
kicked off with Knight Rider, the theme song.
brilliant,
So
brilliant.
it was just you can imagine just that dropping, and then the 10 people just going, "Wow," So yeah, it was awesome. And Mark
Um,
Lancaster, that's his biggest gig,
that's
10 people.
easy. You've had more than 10 people watching you, Mark Lancaster, certainly on the streams.
Oh
But
my gosh,
it is amazing, and obviously it's the same when Zia's played out. It's just the reaction that they get to it. And we've
it's
got
incredible.
next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend. There's a festival we're going to, Elderflower, that I've played at. It's a family festival, and she's got a little gig on Saturday afternoon, so that should be
Amazing.
that's going to be a lot of fun. Just say hello to a few people. Obviously, Mark, we've said hello to. Mad for Skills, welcome. Slim Gets Rad is in here. Double P, we've said hello to. And Constance and Tommy T as well. And Adam as well.
I
Um,
was just going to say there was such a funny moment because the mixer in that store was totally different to what we use, and
of
he
course, yeah.
relies on the echo outs a lot for
Like a lot
mixing.
of
But
us.
this was a real old school mixer that didn't have that sort of feature on it. So there's this moment of Knight Rider playing, and he could just reach the decks, and he's like
Yeah.
literally like holding two records like this, just like standing there for like forever. was just the funniest moment, if you could see. And it was a weird setup too, like the people were behind us, as you could kind of
Right.
see in the pic.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was really kind of awkward, but the cutest thing ever at the same time. So yeah, big ups to everyone that came down to that one. That was super dope.
And did he have, because Zia hasn't really had any sort of nerves or anything, she's just like keen to get on and play. I mean, was he like that as well? Was he just,
He was fine,
let me
yeah. I
do
just
it,
sort of, I did the, oh, come on, DJ, oh, it's your time, it's your turn, because Mummy just threw down, and yeah, and then he just sort of ran in and started. I was a little concerned about the mixer because I hadn't briefed him on, it being
Right.
different and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. But no, he just sort of, I think it just took him a little bit longer to adjust, and he got there, and he did a pretty cool set. So yeah, all worked well.
And it's so fun to watch. And I think I was talking to Benny Goggs, who's Indie Mix's dad, and she was saying it's amazing because the last one we did was Zizi's 8th birthday,
Oh,
the 45 kids, and the one before that was the Halloween one. So about
yes.
4 or 5 months between them, and I think a couple of them had done the odd gig in between, at the odd stream. But he was saying it's just amazing how much they've all come on. In
It's
just the
true.
space of about 5 months, these kids have suddenly got so much more confidence, and
And they're
they're
bigger.
so good. Well, they are bigger,
They're
yeah.
so much bigger in that time. It's like, man, did you grow overnight? Like, what happened?
There is that. I mean, I
It's
think
crazy.
a few more months and Zia won't need her little stool to sort of DJ. She's probably
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
here
I've
now.
already tried, even though he's just sort of peering over the edge here, I've already gotten rid of the little footstool because he's fallen off it a couple of times. So, so I thought, yeah, it's just safer if he just reaches up for now. But yeah, I
Yeah,
was going to say with the kid thing, there's that whole no inhibitions type thing.
yeah,
They go for it, and I've seen that a lot over the years. As I mentioned earlier, my husband's a vocal trainer, so he has a singing school, and that means a lot of little ones performing. And so I've always been the sound engineer for those concerts. We always have
yeah.
an end of year concert at the local theatre. So yeah, that's something that's always a beautiful thing to see. And you see these little kids, like anywhere from 4, 5 and up, and they're just going for it on the stage, And then you get to the more adult shows, and you see a bit of a difference. You can see the
Yeah.
brain is ticking away, and they're thinking about, I don't know, maybe how they're going to be received or something. But there's definitely a ticking happening on there that the kids don't have. So it's a really interesting thing to see.
It's definitely, yeah. I mean, we had yesterday was a show that Claire, my wife, teaches ballet
Oh,
and
so it's
contemporary and
teachers
stuff.
as well. We're
And
surrounded by teachers.
yeah, so yeah, surrounded by teachers. So Zizi was on that, but again, like you say, they had the little ones who were 3. I think is probably the youngest. Two's the youngest. So coming on, literally just standing on stage, but not doing much, but still very cute. And then yeah, like you say, you can see as the adults get that, and they're all a lot more conscious about how they look and what they think. So at some point there will be a point, I think, when these 45 kids suddenly switch, and I don't know when it is. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just think it
I
doesn't
was going to
matter.
say, I'm not so sure for DJO.
Probably not for Zia either, actually, to be honest. But who knows? You just don't know. But
In a funny way, those two, I see a lot of similarities.
yeah,
Just with, just things that she does on screen and how she comes across. I'm like, hey, that's just like you, DJO. Like, it's amazing to see that sort of similarity between those two.
siblings from across the world.
I really, sometimes I wonder.
Those are siblings. Well,
It's just
hopefully
incredible.
one day. Yeah, I don't know when, but hopefully one day in the next couple of years, we'll come there, you come here, or something, and we'll
How
all meet up.
amazing would that be? There's
It'll
so many
happen.
connections like
Yeah.
that are really thanks to the community that you've built, and so appreciated, because it really is, like, for many of us, an extended family. So
Definitely.
yeah, it's incredible. Like, I can't say that I've had these sorts of connections with people in other communities or in other ways. Sure, we've all had connections, no doubt, but this is kind of like a next level connection, in some ways, where it really, really honestly does feel like, well, you really are a long lost brother, or like it's ZZ and DJ O. DJ is always sort of saying, oh, you get mentioned a lot in this house. With, shout outs either to, like, I like to call you Mr. C.
Yeah.
And, of course, to ZZ45 and so on. So, I've even heard, Daddy a few times say, "Hey, you know, like mentioning ZZ in different ways, like, oh, you wouldn't do that to someone like ZZ45, would you? Like when you you have to be nice, getting him ready for
Oh,
school and
brilliant.
whatnot. So,
Brilliant,
yeah,
brilliant.
no,
Well,
yeah.
Zizi was a little bit disappointed because obviously normally the show starts at about 8:30, so she normally comes and says hello to people.
Oh
But
no.
obviously 10 o'clock was just a bit too late. She managed to stay up till about 9ish, and then I was like, "It's too late.
Oh,
You can watch it
ZZ.
tomorrow. You can watch it tomorrow."
If she watches
Um,
back, we love you.
yeah,
Big
she'll
shout
watch it
outs
back.
and thank you. She always gives us a shout out too, which never goes unnoticed. Thank you so
She
much.
does. Right, before we move on, we might come back to DJ later, but before we do, I'm just going to play these couple of clips
Let's
from
go.
the 45 Kids show. If you haven't seen this is
I better put the coffee down.
it's funny. There's just a couple of short clips, but the whole show is brilliant. All of the 45 Kids talk shows are brilliant, and they're all on YouTube, so go and check them out. But let us start with this one.
I'm curious which
when
one
you
you've
go
picked.
and tell the questions to us.
Okay, well that was the first question, but you've got a next question. Go on there.
Our question is,
Oh, you've got a question. Brilliant. Go on then. You ask us your question.
it's do you have Lego Mario?
Oh,
No, but we've seen it.
that is a
We
good
saw
question.
it in the shops.
I mean, that's when he's just started taking over the show.
Like literally. I loved it. There was a point where you're not playing anymore, are you? I don't want to spoil
not
it.
of that one. There's one more clip which I'll play. Hold on. Maybe I'll play.
Go
this
ahead,
last one
play
and
it just in case it's the bit I'm talking about.
All right. So this bit, obviously, like on this show, I asked the 45 kids, or Easy asked 45 kids to choose 3 45s that they like, and this is one that he chose.
The Ghostbusters song.
Dun 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 dun.
Before we move on,
That was DJ O's rendition of Ghostbusters,
that was
by the way.
brilliant. Before we move on to the next track,
But yeah, that was brilliant. That was so funny.
And yes, he is the son of a vocal trainer. So that's what makes it even more funny.
Well, he did pretty well. And then he was showing us his Ghostbusters toys. And like I said, we mustn't forget the Sunday Get Down, who were just sort of in the background cracking up. And they showed us some of their
We were
brilliant,
all losing it.
amazing Lego. They're all there. Right, let me just clear those out.
There was a part. You might have watched it back when he was like, "Oh no, you guys on that screen." Oh, and then you start.
Yeah.
I loved how you started playing back. No, that's you, DJ. And okay, screen number 2. No, well, that's Sunday Get Down. Sorry, that was us.
Yeah.
And then it was just such banter. It was just incredible. And I think he enjoyed driving because he doesn't get to drive often,
Yeah.
So he did definitely on that episode take over.
Well, I think he needs to come up with his own show.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe we need to get. Actually, Zizi was talking about this. She was like, "Oh, maybe I'll come up with another talk show." And I was like, "Okay, maybe just
Just
get those
the kids,
two, those two without us, and just see what happens. Maybe a video call that we record that they don't know.
That would be hilarious.
We should definitely do that. Let's move on to one thing. You mentioned about connections, and I had hoped. Obviously, this show was meant to be last week, and obviously we couldn't do it because you're a little bit unwell. I'm glad that you're, I think, pretty much fully recovered now. Pretty much. But we were supposed to have a special guest coming on, who is DJ Robert Smith.
Yes.
Who was meant to come on, but unfortunately he's just got back off tour and he's just got too much going on, and this is quite late, so he couldn't come on. But he's someone that you've got a really good connection with, and again, you haven't met him in person. He's in Berlin, you're in Sydney, and I didn't realize till quite recently that it was only on the 45-day talk show last year that you two had actually sort of met and connected.
Literally. On the
and
Sam Beeks episode.
On the Sam Beeks episode, yeah. If we say it enough, he'll be there. Before I move on, I am going to mention Sam Beeks because coming up, starting on the 1st of June, Dusty Donuts is taking a little bit of a break over the summer. Me and Sam have got a new show. I'm not going to announce what it is just yet, but we've got a show for 3 weeks in June which should be a lot of fun. But yeah, we'll come back to that later. But yeah, so tell us about the connection and the sort of relationship that you guys have built up, and how that's sort of gone really.
It's incredible. He literally is a brother from another mother, and I've got to mention as well because I think we were going to touch on this today as well.
Yeah.
I found a kind of, I guess, let's call it a special connection with him, yes, but also with you, because you two were kind of there in a pretty tough moment for me.
Yeah.
So, and that was when my father had a heart attack. So, yeah, it's something that I think, in a weird way, bonded us. And it was literally post stream. We were streaming for what was it called again? The 45 Raiders, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's it.
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark, yeah.
Yeah, it was of the last art. My apologies. And
Lost Ark, right?
yeah, it was such a weird thing. And that was one of the first times I was really chatting with Robert. Like at the same time, you stream before you hop on, you chat to a few people or whatnot, and then you DJ. And he happened to hop on for that one. And I remember it was such a weird thing for me. I'd done 2 streams back to back that evening. The first one went relatively well. I used to do something called Sounds of Queens, which happened on the Sunday, and then we had the Raiders of the Lost Art, and which was just obviously all vinyl. And I just remember, and that I didn't know at the time, but that was when my father was having his heart attack in hospital, and I wasn't myself, and that was really weird. And I remember Rob coming through with the messages saying, "Oh, hey, that was dope." I'm like, "Bro, that was not me. I don't know what's going on." And then literally got the message from my sis, actually phone call on the landline. I think it was midnight or something, and messaged you and messaged him just saying, "Oh, guys, I got to go. I'm going to the hospital." So yeah, that was something that I think has, in a strange way, forever bonded us, in my mind anyway, and it's something that I appreciate because both of you, I was in contact with other people of course, but both of these fellas checked in on me every day and just saying, "How's dad, how's it going?" And that meant the world. So yeah, that's how it all kind of started. And then since then, in a weird way, sorry, Rob, and I've told him this already, he reminds me a lot of my dad in so many ways. They're the same star sign and they sort of have the same sort of dad jokes. And I think that sort of started the banter, and he's told me I remind him a little bit of his mum. So, yeah, I think we have these really weird kind of I guess it's almost like a family thing. And really just to the level where, when you can finish someone's sentences, it's kind of to that level. And I love being able to spin with him back to back, which was, again, nothing that we had planned. It's something that just kind of happened. And it was for J1's birthday. Now, as you know, Rob does tour quite a lot still. And he was on a tour and he missed out on confirming his slot for J1. So I said, "Hey, Will, I've actually just gotten an extra half an hour because I had to cover for someone else. Do you want to hop on with me?" And he said, "Yeah, okay, let's go." And that's kind of how our whole Stream Pirates thing has happened. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's something that we've kind of done a few times now. And we like to kind of just surprise people, and instead of just getting me or just getting him, you get the two of us. And it's a whole lot fun. It's kind of hard to do the solo streams after that, though, because they kind of feel boring after, sort of interacting with someone else on screen and just, mucking around and being silly and whatnot.
Very true, because I used to, before COVID and all the rest of it, I used to DJ with my co-DJ Adrian, and obviously we'd do back to back, and so much more fun. And when I went up to Edinburgh, I got to do it with Scotty, so we did a couple of hours. So then I put a call out to people because I know other people in the community, like Mark Lancaster has done stuff with Daryl Easley, Adam and Constance have done. So I just said, look, do you live near a 45er? Do you want to do 2 hours? So we've got a whole series over the summer on Coffee and Donuts of people doing 2-hour sets or 3-hour sets, even longer ones, together, rather than just a solo stream, because we can now. And I think it's just vibing off each other as well as the chat and everyone else is tuning in.
So much so, and we've had so many sort of after the first ones, there was
Yeah.
so much kind of, I guess, reaction to it in a good way,
Yeah.
and so much positive feedback. And what are you using to stream? And all these questions started coming through, and we were like, hey, this is kind of cool. Shall we do it
Yeah.
again? And then we did it again, and we did it. We've done it. I don't know. 4 or 5 times now, 3, 4, 5, something like
Yeah.
that. And it's such a buzz to be able to vibe with someone, and it kind of still a little bit blows my mind to think this person's on the other side of the globe,
Yeah.
and we're literally spinning together, and it's
Yeah.
hardly any delay, if any. And it's an amazing thing. That's something I think we can be thankful for that came through or came out of COVID. So yeah, definitely still loving that.
I think this is definitely one of the. I mean, obviously, we say this all the time. There's been a lot of tragedy and a lot of things have
Of
happened.
course.
But this seems to be, certainly from a DJ perspective, one of the best things that's come out of COVID, because
Without a doubt.
I just don't know if this would have happened. I know there was DJs on Twitch and there was DJs doing live streams, but certainly nothing like this that I'm aware of.
It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, and even Twitch. I think when I was talking to Sweet Tooth last week, I can't remember who it was. Taco Truck came in and he said, "Well, music and talk shows and things like that have only been categories on Twitch very recently. It was literally just games.
Gaming. Well, it is a gaming platform. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still a game, isn't it? With hype trains and build up your followers, do
That's
this,
it.
get that. It's one big game. But it's how you play it and what you want to get out of it, really.
True.
And I think for me, it's been amazing that through the music, I've been able to sort of take it in this direction and be able to have these conversations with people like you and all the other people who've been on the show. Quite a lot of who are in the chat right now.
I got to say,
sorry, 1 second.
Yeah,
I'm just
go
going to say
ahead.
hello to Mr. Lob's in the house. Morning.
I did
Mr.
see.
Lob, and Decal as well. So all the Australians are finally waking
Yay.
up.
Good to
And
see you,
Mr.
fellas.
House is in the house as well. Right. Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to give them a shout out too, so we're on the same page there.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, definitely big ups, Decal, Mr. Lob, much love. Of course, Mark's still holding it
easy on
down
him.
here, sending much love as well. Yeah, I think it's been an incredible experience. And just one thing actually I did want to say was that first episode that you mentioned where we kind of connected on the Sam Beeks episode. I think that was a pretty special episode as well. Just having, I'm just trying to think back. It was obviously you hosted it.
Mark, Rick, you,
Robert Smith, Sam
and
Beeks, Funky Chef. These guys. Funky Chef is another one that I connected with early on. I just absolutely love him. And there's a lot of, again, in a weird way, there's all these family like connections as well, because my father-in-law is South American. So, instantly I just gravitated towards Funky Chef. So it was just, he's an absolute legend as well. Big shout out to you too, Dylan.
Yeah, I big up my Funky Chef. He kills every set he plays. Is just unbelievable. And he's such a nice guy. And I'm hopefully next year I can make it out to Spain and go and visit him.
Has to be done.
We'll see. Yeah, he's not that far. It's just need to get past this year.
Honestly, one day, imagine all of us on a road trip on a bus.
Well,
just traveling around.
Constance said it, a world tour.
That's it. It would be nuts, right? See, again, my sister with vinyl right there.
Yeah.
I pictured that maybe about a year ago.
The kids will be touring.
They'll be big by then.
We'll be the managers in the background. we'll have like the back room, and they'll be doing the main room. That's probably what's going to happen.
I'm happy to stay in the green room. That's fine with me.
Exactly. We just hang out in the background. They can just get on with it.
Coffees. I'll make the cakes. What else do we need?
Who's driving?
I'll get the hubby.
Maybe the kids will drive us around because we have to drive them around at the moment.
DJ O.
Yeah.
DJ O really envisages himself as a racing car driver, so that could be an interesting thing.
It could be. Okay, let's talk about something slightly different. but linked in the same way. Obviously, DJO is quite young and he's sort of coming through. When did you first start DJing? I think we did discuss this before when you came on All Back to Mine. But in case anyone doesn't know, when did you start DJing? Obviously, as a woman DJ, how was that perceived? How did you get on in the scene to start with, and then obviously perhaps later on, how did things progress?
And definitely, okay, that's a big one, and that's one that's definitely been a.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I love it. It's definitely totally me and my coming up and where I've come from. So it's really important and super relevant. So my first gig was literally twice the age of DJO. So I was 10, and it was a private party. It was 21st, and of course this is the days of vinyl. So it was literally 45s and 12s and a handful of cassettes. Cassettes were just sort of coming around at that point.
Were you playing cassettes out? Were you playing them out?
Yeah, I'd pre-cue them.
Okay.
So pre-cue them to the first beat so that you could still kind of in a roundabout way beat mix it in.
Right,
and
okay.
I used to do a lot of tape to tape mixes even before that first gig. So my sis would go, because my sister was 10 and a bit years older, and she'd be off in that clubbing phase, get ready, go out with her friends, and clubbing days back then were literally till 6 a.m. So it was all through the night, and I would sneak
you're almost
into her
there now with Twitch. Staying up till
pretty
5,
much
6 a.m.
It's like it's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'd sneak into her room because she had the tape-to-tape cassette player, which would record, and I'd make mixtapes, which I've still got somewhere at Mum and Dad's house.
Brilliant.
And it would be the pause, record type, approach. And that's kind of, I guess, my introduction, apart from vinyl. So my first vinyl I got in around 1983. I would have been about 5. So I'd say my collection started around about the age of 5. And I've still got them all. I think I've sent you pics at some stage of some of them. And so that's literally first gig 10, tape to tapes earlier. And music was always for me a bit of a remedy in terms of I was one of those kids that often got not so well in the backseat of a car. And what Mum and Dad did, even though it was, it wasn't a super, super cheap thing to do, but they were like, no, Mum, I need it. They bought me a Walkman. So I had my Walkman on every car trip possible. Okay. And whenever I did, I was okay. I was never ill. If I didn't have my Walkman and my music, I'd often be ill. So, that was a funny thing where I think really early on, I kind of saw music as a bit of a therapy in a sense, where it literally saved me from not feeling well.
And was that just because it was occupying your mind?
Yeah, I think because you kind of go on that journey, you're listening to a song, and I got to pull it out because it's such a big part of me and where I come from and what I do.
Go for it.
So, this is one I remember always having on cassette, and there was one song in particular, live at Union Square, which I know a lot of people talk about now. That was a 1986 recording. And that's something that I had on repeat. And it was one of the first things I think that I really listened to on repeat that was a live recording. And it was all because, obviously, Will Smith being the hype man that he is, and Jazzy Jeff on the scratch. I heard this Transformer scratch and I was like, what the heck is that? And I listened to that thing again and again and again, and I wore out the tape. And when the tape would get uneven, you'd get the pencil and even it out again. And that was literally
enough to know that,
Oh yeah. It was sticking it back together when it snapped with sticky tape. Yeah, all of that stuff. That was just part of the daily routine, I guess. But yeah, for me, because that was a live thing, I'd literally close my eyes and it would take me there. Like I'd visualize being at that show, and hearing it and getting hype, And when you're hype, you don't get sick. So it
true.
Worked,
Well, that's such a classic. DJ Premier was on Twitch, must have been a few weeks ago, and he was playing that, and he was sort of breaking it down,
legend,
and saying how when he first heard it, He didn't know what the hell was going on, and how was he doing
Yeah.
that scratch, and how was he doing that transform on what was pretty basic equipment back then.
Literally.
It's
And
not
that
your mixes that we've got now. It was just basic.
it was the foundation for a lot of us, I think, listening to that and coming up. Whether, big name or not a big name, it was really a defining moment. And
Yeah.
to this day, I think from that foundation, the Transformer scratch is still one of my favorite scratches. And it's something that, you will never hear me not do. And it all goes back to that, literally. So that was a big thing that I kind of, I guess, learnt really early on. And something that I've, without realizing, taken through my life, like having DJO and going into the delivery room, I got permission to take in my big headphones and I think it
Amazing.
was just playing music maybe off my phone or off an iPod. Or I can't even remember what I took in, but I took some equipment in to listen to my mixtapes and songs. And so, yeah, he was literally birthed to my X to the Z mixtape, which I did for when Exhibit came out. And
Amazing. That's amazing.
hilarious memories too of, the midwife walking in and I'm on the bouncy ball and it was Big L playing. And literally again that transportation, because I tried to birth him with no drugs, literally a la natural, and so it was a massive process, and so I needed my music and it worked. It was something that transported me. And I can't say I was one of those ladies that would, because I know a lot of ladies will do things like they'll put on relaxing sounds like, rainforests and birds and all that. So that's not me. I had the lowrider music going. I had the Exhibit, the Big L, the you name it, and a couple of playlists there. And so that's basically what he came into the world with. And
That explains a lot. No,
yeah,
but I mean
Mr.
it's amazing because I haven't heard because similarly my wife didn't really have any drugs or anything like that. But it's interesting hearing music being used in that way, like you say, the opposite to what you would expect to have. Obviously, I'm not a woman. I don't know. I've got no idea what you guys have been through, realistically. But it's interesting. And like Mr. Lob says, things like whale farts. But yeah, I'm sure hip hop. I can't imagine there's many women who would have that going on. But brilliant. It's amazing that music was able to take you
It
and
worked.
help you
I
with that
had that
process.
and I had the gas. And as long as I
Yeah.
had, because again, that's a big pair of headphones to take into a delivery room.
Yeah.
And but I did that because they are sound cancelling and they
Yeah.
transport you. You hear nothing but this, So I just big ups to the legend of a midwife that I had that let me do that, because I've heard that because it has to be a sterile environment and all that sort of stuff, these things are often
Yeah.
not permitted, and they try to take them away. I'm like, no, I need those. So yeah, I was lucky that I got to have them. And yeah,
That's
he came
yeah.
out and 4.64 kilos, massive baby. And unfortunately, yeah, after a couple of days, it wasn't a natural delivery at the end of it, even though that was my aim or my goal. So he
Yeah.
was a C-section and with complications. And I think that's kind of part of why as well we spent that first 7 months at home, because I literally couldn't walk for the first 4. So yeah, it was tough and it was rough, and not having a mum at that point was probably one of the hard things as well, because you don't really have that, not just assistance and extra hands, but just, someone to ask all these questions to. Because when you haven't been through it before and you haven't had a family member that's been through it before, it's really a new world, going through such an experience. So, yeah, and thanks, Mr. Lob. He said, sorry to hear. Thank you, darling. I don't see it in a negative way, though. And I think that's really the difference is I've always been the sort of person that, no matter what, if something has to be done, it gets done. And, you find a way. And we did just that, you know. Sure, we didn't have the easiest road, but we found a way and it worked and we're here and we're all okay. And I'm back doing what I love and I'm standing on my 2 feet. And he's number one thing is he's fine, you know. So it all turned out well after what was probably a bit of a tough time. So yeah, definitely, you know, it is what it is in a sense. Now, I think I've gone off track though because we were talking about.
I think again, you know, it's important that we talk about things because obviously, you know, like I said earlier, I don't know what it is, and as Mr. Lobb says, you know, us men have it much easier. You know, we have our own issues, but nowhere near.
I was going to say, in one way,
through.
yes. In one way, yes. But then you have to deal with us lovely ladies and our hormones at that point in time. And it really is tough. It's really tough for us, you know. Not just blaming it on the hormones. It's massive changes to a body, you know, and going through that and the befores and the afters and all the stuff that you don't learn about that you learn as you go. And yeah, it's not easy. So in one way, you know, we do. We've got it different, yeah, but without you guys, it'd be a heck of a lot harder. That's for sure. So big ups to all the dads. Big ups to all the dads.
Some sort of support.
100%.
I guess that's our sort of main role, really, or one of our roles that you know we have to do. But again, 100%. You know, thank you for the honesty and you know the
open book here.
Sort of talking about it because again, you know, I assume there's other shows and I assume other you know women do talk about these things, but perhaps not necessarily in this community. And again, thank you for in this safe space being able to talk about it.
Nothing to hide here.
Yeah.
Definitely nothing to hide, but big ups to all the mums and dads in this community because to be able to still do what we do with the little ones and with all of, you know, the daily odds that might be stacked against you, big ups, man, because it's not as easy as, you know, when we were younger and kind of carefree. It is a different world now as a parent, which, I'm sure everyone knows and feels.
It's the balance, isn't it? Because obviously, you know, it's family. It's a lot of us have got day jobs as well, you know, and then on top of you know our hobby and record collecting and all the rest of it, you know, it's and trying to keep all the balls juggling. You know, that's the thing.
Juggle,
you know, it's not always easy, but it's a good thing to hear. I don't know how far we got into your history. I think we got as far as you in the back seat with your Walkman.
It keeps going to DJ O, that's right.
Yeah.
I guess he is my world.
Of course, totally.
DJing, yes. Okay, so then the later years, obviously music was always in my blood, part of my life from day dot. My dad actually collected a lot of vinyl. So a lot of 7s and 12s were actually my toys growing up. And I think that just sort of carried through my lifetime. And that's, again, another connection that I love to have with Dad. So later on, it was kind of inevitable that through high school, I got the nickname of Deej. And I also had 2 nicknames, actually. One was Deej, one was D-Mac. And so then I kind of just lost the Mac and put the DJD together, and it kind of stuck. So I used to do a lot of those, you know, friends' house parties and birthdays and, you know, bring all the records and the cassettes over and DJ. And so I was the DJ in the circle of friends in high school. And then shortly thereafter, I think it was about a year out or so, I actually got a professional setup. So I saved up. Luckily, I started a business at the age of 16. I started working full-time at the ABC as a graphic designer, and I actually started teaching graphic design a year later. So I was a real young teacher, and it's something that I've done for a couple of decades, I should say. It was literally a 19-year-old teaching. I think the oldest student I had was a 60-year-old male, which you can imagine how that went down. Just the dynamics of that. Initially, it was tough, but at the end of the year, there was all nothing but thanks, you know. So, it was that time of, and I think that's where I've also always been connected with the web. So I think that was kind of my expertise. I came in on that early wave of the internet and designing for the web, and it was pre-video, pre anything like this happening. And it was the days of animated GIFs. I remember when the animated GIF came in, and we were just mind blown. 2-3 frames of fluoro animation. And it was the days of just hand coding. So yeah, I used to nerd out. And that was my day job, and that's what paid for pretty much what you see behind me. And there's another wall behind the camera. And again, digressing a little bit, just because that is what funded my vinyl and DJ habit. And from there, lucky enough, I started to do some gigs here and there, private gigs, and then started to kind of really make a little bit of a name for myself in terms of being, I guess, locally one of the only ladies that really threw down in terms of the turntablist tip, because it's not something that you really saw back in the 90s very much at all. A lot of fellas holding it down in an amazing way. But here in Australia, I was literally in most cases either first female to play in that space, or first female to enter the, DMC comps or whatever it might be. So, yeah, a lot of memories like that are included, as well as even tours, like one of the first ladies to play in the Middle East in Oman back in, I think it was 2005, and I could literally write a book about that experience alone. It was just unbelievable. So, that obviously the local gigs and stuff that moved to the clubs. Clubs was really my thing. I didn't really enjoy doing too many private parties. I'd do them for friends pretty much, like if it was a friend getting married or party 21st, yeah, maybe. But actually working as a mobile DJ was not my thing. It's not something I enjoyed, and I didn't want to be lugging around the equipment. I wanted to just walk in the club, everything's there, get my records and do my thing. And that's pretty much what I did. And I was lucky enough to, have all of those really good sets, or pretty much always peak time sets. And playing to those big rooms, the big, crazy kind of numbers, line down the street type events. And that's kind of, I guess, what my 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, that was my life. And there were times where I think there were rarely a weekend where I wasn't on a plane flying over somewhere to do a gig, which was, I think, one of the best and favorite times of my life, because it was literally like living free. As much as I hate flying, just like the car, I'm not so good on planes, but I always had my headphones and my, Walkman or my laptop, and I'd get through it. And just the memories alone. And that was, I think, pre all of what we're doing here online. That's how we used to make connections. We used to make connections flying over and meeting, I remember even just having random amazing legends show up at my gigs and introduce themselves. I'm like, dude, you're DJ Junior from the DMC that DJ'd with his hood on his face, and he's like come to my gig, and he's like, oh, that was awesome. I'm just like mind blown, I watched you coming up and just was amazed, and you're here at my gig. And then we end up having like a jam session at his place till like 6 a.m, and he's got video of it still somewhere, and like all of those sorts of memories and things are literally, they're the moments for me that I love to reminisce about. Now, I do reminisce a lot, just because as a mum, that's kind of, I guess, my access to still be able to do something, because I can't really get out there and gig at the moment, having little DJO with me all the time. So, definitely gone through the archives over the last couple of years and pulled out some great memories. And, that obviously led to things like supporting some incredible artists as well. So, having to be able to play and support, I guess, artists that you grew up listening to is just something that's, you can't explain. It's that goosebump moment of, oh my gosh, that's really, so-and-so, and here I am kind of playing just before them, making way for them, So incredible moments.
I guess in one sense, what's happened with the pause in life with the pandemic and obviously having DJ is you've been able to go back and, like you say, reminisce about all these things, because,
exactly,
life is so busy that you're so focused on what's going on right in front of you or the next thing, You don't get to go back. It's like we were talking earlier about the 45 Kids show. You know, it's only, you know, I've watched it a couple of times in the past, but it's been a few months since I've watched it again. And it's nice to sort of go back and do that. And at some
So
point, I'm
good.
going to go back through all these shows and sort of dig out little sections and put together a compilation of everything, because, you know,
I love that.
it's been amazing. You know, for me, you know, all these shows have been great. Let's go back a tiny bit, because like you say, and I think Rob made the point as well, that you still don't see a huge amount of women throwing down and turntablists. You know, we have quite a lot of 45 Queens who play on the streams. I'm trying to think of another one who does it in the same way. So I can't. I'll be corrected if I've missed someone, but I can't think of another woman DJ who we've had on the streams who does what you do, in terms of that. So obviously that's from your love of hip hop to start with.
100%.
But why do you think? Do you think there's a reason why women are not quite as
Yeah,
much of that?
there's
I'm
a
just going to
few.
pause you. Sorry, I'm just going to pause you before we start.
Yeah, come ahead.
Because we've just had a raid in from B-side. So I
Oh,
just want to
excellent.
say welcome, Raiders. Welcome. Thank you, B-side. I was checking out your set earlier on. Really enjoyed that with the Monday gang, which was Sucker Timmy and also DJ Leroy. If you're new to the channel, hit that follow button. This is part of my journey. This is DJ D in Australia, Sydney, Australia. It must be about 8 a.m. now.
Yes, just ticked over.
And we're talking about all sorts of things in terms of mental health. We're talking about her career. We're at the stage where we're talking about her being a woman DJ doing turntablism as part of her set. So yeah, let's go back to that. So yeah, why do you think it's perhaps more of a male thing than a female thing?
I think it initiated that way to start. Obviously, it's always been coming up through the 80s and 90s. You watch any DMC, it's literally male dominated. You might get one female here and there, but again, locally in Australia, we didn't really have much at all. And honestly, why? It's a question that I've been asked so many times over the years and over the decades, and I've got so many articles on my website about this point. And I think it's a number of things, but quite simply put, it's tough. And I'm not saying that girls can't do it. We obviously can, and it's the main reason why I've kind of pushed myself to do what I do, is literally to show, hey, us ladies, we can do it too, you know? So, it's a lot of things in terms of, and we sort of started to touch on it earlier on when we were talking about the kids and inhibitions and, you know, the older ones with the brain ticking. I think perhaps, I don't know if this is the answer, but perhaps as females, maybe we think about those things a little bit more in terms of how we're perceived, if we're accepted. Obviously, if we throw down and it's not so good, we take it to heart in a way, you know, and that can be a dead end for a lot of people. I don't know. Well, let me rephrase that. I was going to say, for me, one of my traits, I think always, and I think we can see it in DJ O already, is perseverance. Obviously, dedication, but perseverance. And if I can't do something, that doesn't mean that I stop. I keep trying, and I keep going, and I keep practicing until I get it. It's kind of like it becomes a challenge for me, you know. So it's a personal challenge that I set myself, and I think that's what has helped me get to where I am in terms of, you know, coming forth in Australia for the DMCs for the last round, which is the best I've ever done, you know. But amazing. Don't forget, like, this is a journey that started for me in the 90s, you know, like literally when I got that first proper setup. So that's a heck of a long time to be working, you know, to get to that goal. Still, I'm super grateful to have that, you know. It's not the winning number, no, it's not, but it's damn close, and that's the closest I've ever been. So I definitely appreciate that, and I'm grateful for that. So, yeah, it really is the dedication, practice. I know everyone always says practice, 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 but practice in maybe a different way. Like whenever I don't actually stand here and practice just for the sake of practice. As you know, I have a couple of radio shows, and the radio shows are my practice. So I set myself a little goal each week of coming up with a 3 turntable intro for my radio show, and that's my practice. So it's kind of like live practice in a sense, you know. Practice by doing is probably the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
And I think. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt. There's a few things that come out of that, and I think I just want to pick up on them before I sort of forget them and we move on.
Yeah.
The last point you made is quite an important one. Obviously, you're practicing on the radio show, and Sam, I've spoken to Sam. I think he talked about it on the show last time, but
Sam Beeks.
Sam Beeks, yeah. But he says that obviously when he came up and obviously started, that Twitch was sort of his practice in a way. And before Twitch, he hadn't, like, for example, done a double. He hadn't done like a live mashup. He hadn't done that. So obviously Twitch gave him the ability to sort of practice these things,
That's it.
under pressure while you're doing it. And then obviously he wasn't a good DJ before, but he's now an amazing DJ. It's just
a legend.
The way it happened. And then going a little bit further back, what you say is interesting about, being a woman DJ and perhaps not quite throwing down what is expected and being looked down on. I mean, that's a much bigger issue, isn't
tough.
it?
Yeah,
in life,
it is.
in everything, isn't it? I mean, I think women, in a way, if they're trying to do something in a male-dominated world, they almost have to be much better than
100%
than the men at doing it. Otherwise, the men, unfortunately, in this world, sort of look down a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, thankfully, now in 2022, seeing a lady behind the decks is not so odd. But take your mind back to the 90s, and it was a weird thing to see. Like, because people were not used to seeing that, So even just, I remember one of my first club gigs. And, taking the crates and, hey, you've been working hard for this moment, right? You're carrying those heavy crates that you've maybe taken a couple of days to pack. You get there, you get to the stage. The comment I hear is, what's she going to do? Right? So you're already met with that. And luckily, though, I was ready. Imagine if you weren't ready and you heard that, that's tough. But I was ready. I'd already been holding back for about 5-6 years to do my thing, right? And that was based on some advice from someone in industry, just don't do it until you're ready. And so literally what I did is I got on those decks and I started cutting. And yes, it was transformer scratching. And I threw down and you just saw the mouths drop. And literally... Yeah. And it's not an instant thing. It took a while, but people were like, what the heck? And then you hear like a dude screaming, I've never seen a girl cut so hard. Like you get these comments coming through and I'm like, yes, this is it, And then there was like, obviously you had that with the live situation with the club gigs. Then there were things like my name. My name is kind of generic. You don't know if it's going to be a male or a female. And I actually have had an interstate gig cancelled when they found out it was a female.
No.
Yeah, and it was a big one too. And I was so excited. And, it was like a partnership of promoters. The other promoter literally apologized to me and said, look, don't say, because I was booked. I had the ticket ready to go, So, and then it was last minute cancelled because of that. And that became, it's funny with me looking back, it became a mission for me to turn things around. And literally the person that cancelled that gig had later seen me at another event, which happened to be supporting Naughty by Nature, and came over. I'd literally dropped one record. I think I was mixing into the second one, and the person that cancelled that gig came over and shook my hand and said, I'm flying you over. So, it was literally kind of a turnaround mission for me. From that, it then turned into the whole online and getting kind of dissed in a way by online people. Let's say trolls. That's probably the best word. And that was in the days of YouTube, though. Twitch wasn't around at that stage. It was literally like YouTube had just come in. We were like, wow, and we've got to put some stuff up. And I think I put up my DMC set, which I had come 8th in Australia for as the only female competitor. And it got hit. Some really nice comments, but I don't know if it's a female thing or if everyone does this, but I didn't notice the nice comments. I just stuck with the negative ones. They stuck with me.
That's not a female thing. We discussed this. Maculate is in the chat. I don't know if he's still there. He's been on the show, and we discussed this. I think it's called negative bias. It's the same as 100 good comments, one bad comment. That's the one that sticks.
Literally.
It's just how we're built. Literally, everyone. Yeah.
And I'll never forget, like, because that really, that cut me, and it shouldn't have, but it did. And I'll never forget at that point. I don't know if you know DJ ID. He's a legend in the
Yeah.
DMC world. I remember he actually hopped on, and I didn't know really who DJ ID was at that point, but he put a beautiful comment about she's doing her thing, let her do her thing in a roundabout way,
Yeah.
It's kind of felt like someone was sticking up for me, and I was like, oh, what a legend, And then I later found out who he was. I'm like, wow, this is like extra legendary now, So, yeah. And then to get to, meet, we ended up having, by coincidence, gigs across the road in another city, and meeting him face. I'm like, I remember you stuck up for me on YouTube, It's like, just all those moments coming full circle, which is incredible. So, yeah, definitely, I think you're 100% right in terms of back in the day, maybe not so much now, but back in the day, you had to go that little bit further, I think, as a female to be anywhere near accepted. And even after all of that, there were still so many scenarios of like sabotage and, I won't go into too many details, but other DJs literally doing things to sabotage your sets, which is just the funniest thing, like, to think about. It's ridiculous, right? And I think...
I'm just going to pause. Was this in competitions or just in a normal set that you were
I got to say in both. Yeah,
Really?
I've got stories from live gigs, from comps, from... Yeah, it's kind of like, it really is a battle. And some people take it literally as a battle. Look, it is. 100% is. But you can imagine not everyone's going to be built for that, and that's it's something where you have to have your armor on to get through, I guess, in a way.
Like Rob said, good for you for sticking at it, because I guess in a
Thanks,
different
Rob.
world, you might have said, you know what, I'm not going to take any of this crap anymore. I can't do it. I'm not going to take this negativity.
Easily.
I'm just going to stop. And I'm sure
That's-
a lot of people do that.
That's the easy, I think, way. I think for me, though, and it all just goes back to why you do what you do. For me, this is in my blood. Like, I'm not me. I'm sorry, this sounds so funny. I actually said it to the dude that runs the DMCs here. I said, I'm not me without my DMC, dude. Like, literally, because... It's why I do what I do. I'm so fascinated, not just by scratching and by what we can do. Like, I've been doing this for a couple of decades and I'm still discovering new stuff now. Like, that's mind blowing in itself, and that's something that's never going to get tired for me. So, honestly, coming out of having DJ O and just being able to sort of get down with the 45 community again, really just brought me back to life in more ways than one, and answered a lot of questions of, I can still do this. I always kind of thought, maybe I'm too old and, maybe I'm a bit out of date and all that sort of stuff. But there's still a space, which is really nice to know and nice to say.
And it's one of the things that, we've got Mr. Lob in the chat, and he set up the 45 Kings collective, and obviously with Fat Wax, and obviously that's sort of grown. And again, we've discussed it with him about how they thought it'd be like 30, 40 people, being real proper nerds and talking about, just 45s. And obviously I think, it's a private group, so it's not about numbers. It's about having people who want to be in that community. And
but the numbers are there. Well done, guys.
Close to 1,000. Yeah, it's getting close to about 1,000 people, and everyone mostly knows each other. And a lot of them have been on our streams, and a lot of them have been on our shows, and been on chat shows, and all sorts of things. So it's been amazing. And again, I don't think age is a problem. I mean, we've got some elderly, not elderly, we've got some people who are a bit older. But there was this interesting comment I think Mark Lancaster put up in the chat the other day. It was something he'd screenshotted from Twitter, and a young lady.
Yeah, I did see it. I saw that post.
This young lady had put something about, I'm doing I can't remember what it was, maybe a poll.
A mix or something.
I'm looking for elderly DJs. Anyone over the age of 25.
25? I was like, what?
I don't think there's anyone under the age of 25 in this group, apart from obviously the 45 kids.
The 45 kids, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's.
Hey, Mr. Lob, I want to know, did you do it?
Did he do the poll? We should
Did you do the mix?
We should have just got in touch with them and just said,
Seriously,
we've got
send
a
like
whole group of elderly
everyone
DJs.
in the group should have sent one. Like just flood them with mixes from everyone.
That might be a good idea. Maybe I'll do a post tomorrow and we'll try and find out who this woman was.
That would have been the best. But I think that's what I love about this community is one, look, we are, I think, a lot of us from the same sort of or similar generations. So we have that connection already to start. But for me, to be accepted into this community like instantly and with love and with no hate was like something I've never experienced before, coming up through the battle scene that we've been talking about, which is the total opposite. To then be like, be able to just, and dude, it took me a little while to get used to the 45s. My first sets were like, D, what's going on? What's happening? You're rusty as, man. And, but no one said anything. No one said anything bad. There were no negative comments. Sure, maybe mama skipped a beat or something, but it was still all good. And that's rare. That's a pretty special thing.
It's just the support. And we had this, I had DJ Babs on a little while ago, and she was saying pretty much the same thing. And Fifi LaRue, people who sort of had viewed themselves in one sense musically as a bit of a outlier. And I suppose it's the same with you, being a woman turntablist DJ, when there isn't many, you're sort of at the edge of the scene. But it's, we just, it just seems very natural. I don't know for everyone else, but at the end of the day, we all like 45s. That's it. If you like 45s and play 45s, you're in. That's about the only requirement. And as long as you're not an idiot,
I've been the person that sort of, I held back from Serato for how long, how many years. I held back from the digital stuff for such a long time. And it's all because, vinyl is my first love. Yeah. And pretty much everything I've done in terms of, because I used to have other radio shows, Mix Bosses and whatnot over the years. And everything that we did for those shows, as well as, we were actually a really big community, Mix Bosses. We were 11 countries strong. And this is more through the 2000s. And it was really all about keeping vinyl alive. And I kind of look back in that and a little bit laugh now when I see like all of you guys are here and there's no need to try and keep vinyl alive because it's alive and well, and that's I think the best thing that I've taken from not just this wonderful community, but from things like 45 Kings and 45 Days. Vinyl's alive and well. I don't know. Was there a lull there for a while where I had the wrong idea? I don't know. Literally that last, that...
I think it's like a wave, isn't it? I think...
it feels like it's back and it's strong and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And I think it's probably because a lot of us have been doing it so long. And no, absolutely no disrespect to digital DJs because they can do things that we can't do with vinyl,
100%.
And it's video DJing, DJ Tanner and Macula and all the other DJs. That's another whole level. It's stuff that we can't necessarily just do immediately. But it's just you sort of go through this journey, don't you? Like part of my journey is a bit of a cliche, but it is a journey, isn't it? Because I think we've all started in some way, tried different things, and then we seem to have come back, a lot of us, to vinyl just because
100%.
It's a great format, 7-inch, 12-inch, 10-inch, whatever it is. But it's just a great format to use and play. And
it is without a doubt. And I think for me, it's what I'm used to, I guess, is probably the best way to put it. It's what I've always done, except now more so on the smaller format than the bigger one. So because bulk of my collection, as I mentioned before, is 12s. So I'm actually Mr. Lob and Mr. C, dude, you've kind of swayed mama to that smaller format, I gotta say. I'm finding it hard to go back the bigger way. Like even
yeah,
my
once you
Serato.
play 45s, there's no going back.
Well, it's true, isn't it? And even my Serato,
um,
like I do Serato, which is absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And I think DJ Flip Out even at the end of one of our streams said you have to be crazy to do Serato on sevens. Yeah, I'm crazy. I do it on sevens. And yeah, I can't go back. The big ones just feel so heavy and clunky. And yeah, I told you. Thanks, Mr. Lob. Yep.
I was
You're
talking
right.
about this on I did a little radio interview for DJ LEB on Gloucester FM, and she was talking about how she was struggling going from 12s to 45s, and I was telling her the story about
huge.
when you asked me to do the mix for your 1200s mix, and I had to play 12s. It was the first time I took Criztoz for a long time. And I was just like, this is really weird. You know, it's just
Doesn't
so
it? It's like pushing bricks.
Yeah.
It's like
it's so different. But then now Zeezy's getting into the 12s.
I love that.
He's got like
hey, that's a good point. I wonder if it's easier for the kids.
She hasn't really. I don't know. I think it must be because obviously it's smaller, and obviously smaller hands is easier.
Yeah.
But, you know, when we went to Rare Kind Records again on Saturday, and she ended up buying a jungle 10-inch, like an Illuminous.
That's awesome.
Yellow thing. She the 45s are downstairs, so I'm on the 45. She just goes upstairs. And just has a quick look through and sees and gets the guides. But she came down. She's like, I found 3 records. They're about 50 pounds altogether. So maybe just take one. We'll take one this week, and then we'll come back another week and take another one. But you know, she's picking out
so
stuff like
funny.
Metalheads, and you know, I can't remember the name of it. I've got it out there, but I can't remember the name of the one. But it's all drum and bass.
I love that. I love that.
A jungle kid at some point.
But thinking back to like when I was her age, it was the up tempo stuff.
Of course,
100%. 100%. And that's I I even remember, and I saw you do this on the live stream once just randomly. I used to do a lot of messing with vinyl, and again, I didn't have a proper setup then, so there was only so much you could do, but I used to always play stuff on 45 that was meant to be played on 33. And I remember seeing you do it on a live stream once, and that just brought back so many memories for me because I used to literally make those mixtapes of playing records on the wrong speed, so you get like chipmunks and whatnot, you know. So I
blame Sound Tweaks and Don Champ Sound because I'm quite addicted to playing them at 45s at 33, and I did a mix for 45 days as well. And coincidentally, Don Champ Sound is coming on one of my shows in a couple of weeks, so that's
there you go.
That's gonna be an interesting show. But again, it's playing with vinyl and playing with the pitch and the speed and everything, which it's not going to sound quite the same if you're doing digital. I don't think if you slow down. I haven't tried it, but I don't think it sounds quite the same.
Here comes that eternal question of does it ever sound quite the same as vinyl? And for me, no, it doesn't. No. There's just that warmth, the crackle, all that nostalgia built into that piece of wax. And whether it's a new release or an old one, you just hear one little crackle in there and it's like, wow, So, I think for me, nothing will ever replace that. And I've always had, even growing up as a kid, I've always said, DJing, and I've done a lot of that now. And then I'll go back into production, which is something that I started to play with back in the day as well. One of my aspirations was always to have an analog recording studio. And I've sort of been, piecing together. You can imagine, I think, Constance, you'll appreciate this one, Constance K. Imagine me, huge, right? I think I would have been probably maybe like 6-7 months pregnant at that stage, walking down, because I got real heavy. I almost hit 100 kilos. I was massive. And walking up and down the street was my prescription from my doctor to get not too heavy. And literally down the road, not anymore, but growing up, is a place I used to walk past with my mum when I was maybe 15, 16, like those mid-teens, and it was a recording studio, and it was called Atlantic Recordings. And I used to walk past that with Mum and just look up at the signage and just dream, one day I'm going to have that building, one day, And so pregnant, 7 months, walking past, someone else had purchased the place, and they were dumping all this analog equipment on the street. And so I literally said, bro, called my brother who had a van at the time. You got to get here. You got to pick up this mixing desk for me.
Wow.
So literally like this massive analog 70s mixing desk and other bits of analog equipment
Amazing.
made
Wow.
it to my place. So yeah, they don't have a recording studio yet, but I've got a few pieces here and there.
You've got the
And,
start. That sounds good.
literally mid-COVID, we tried to buy the place. It didn't happen. It went for a
Wow.
ridiculous amount of money, but I did try and get that dream. But sadly, wasn't meant to be. Probably for the better, to be honest. So with all of the stuff that's happened since COVID's kicked in. So yeah.
Well, it may happen further down the line.
It's all gutted now. It's a furniture shop now.
No, but if you've got the equipment, it may be.
Oh, well, true. Bring it back to its original home. That's
bring it back somewhere. I'm going to make a point. I think this is right. I mean, I think I can tell if it's a digital scratch or an analog.
Oh,
scratch.
yes.
It's
Oh,
definitely a difference, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
You can definitely hear it.
100%.
Do you think because the DMCs you're still digital largely, aren't you? When you're doing a routine, is that right?
There's different options for different heats now. Just as of about a year ago, it's all changed. So you still have the traditional DMC, which is one I had entered the last few years, which is the World Championships.
Yeah.
And that actually, surprisingly, there's no real restrictions on how you enter. So you can enter on turntables, you can enter on digital, you can enter pretty much whichever way you like. If you want to do just vinyl, you can do just vinyl. What I did was I did a combination hybrid thing for my last one where I had the 3 decks, which are still set up like this. And then I had a 4-deck digital unit. So I did a 7-channel mix, which sounds nuts, but yeah, 7 channels simultaneously going at the same time and keeping those all on beat and all that sort of stuff, which I think went over a lot of people's heads because they didn't know what was going on. But watching it back, they're like, oh yeah, 7 channels. So it's still nice to have that, you know. So really, it's up to you. But then they also have like all of these mini competitions. So the one that's actually due, I think, in about a week, and I'm still like, oh, should I do it? I don't know if I've got time. Is an all vinyl one. So just vinyl, no digital, no Serato, no DVS. And and then they've got one that's just for scratching, and then they've got one that's just for juggling, and then they've got one that's just for another, thing. So yeah, it's a little bit different now. So
it's good though, isn't it? Because again, it's accepting of everyone, isn't it? It's like niche. It's like, well, if you're good at this or if you're good at that, let's do the thing. And again, it brings us back to the 45 Kings and the 45 community, because we have people DMC turntablist champions, and then we've got bedroom DJs, we've got professional DJs, gigging DJs, we've got people who haven't done it before or haven't done a stream before, and it's just amazing that everyone comes in. Right, let's move on to 45s, obviously. So obviously you've touched a little bit about why you like them. And Mark Lancaster was in the show earlier, and he mentioned that he put forward a question in the very first show, which I had Double P and Mr. Musto on, of can the guests choose 45s that lift the spirits? And we've done it pretty much every show since, even when Maculate was on, because he doesn't play 45s, but he picked out 3 tunes. So you've picked out 3. So if you tell us what they are. We won't play them, unfortunately, just because we try and keep it. We don't have any copyright issues with the recording. But yeah, if you just tell us why you've chosen these 3. But let's start with the first one. What it is and why you've chosen it.
Now, not all of them, but some of them I have actually in my 45-day mix that just went up a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
because we've been unwell. I've still got a little bit of a cough, but getting through it. This
became, I think, mix 133. I think.
Yes.
So yeah, and DJ O was 132. So
his first ever mix. Oh, Mama was proud.
It's amazing, yeah, and yeah, it's the same with DJ JS, same with Polyphonic, same with ZZ. It's amazing seeing all these kids doing a mix, on top of doing the live streams. But yeah, big up all the kids.
because it is such a different thing, isn't it? So yeah, that's officially his first ever mix, and I'm actually kind of surprised how it turned out. So I'm going to get him to do a 12/12s for the radio show next as well. So he'll be the next guest. But yeah, all right. So yeah, if we're not, I actually picked a whole bunch, but I'll just go with what I've got here. This one is Heat Rock. Do you want me to switch cameras? Do you want to see?
Yeah, if you've got the top-down camera, yeah.
Okay, I can flick over. Okay. All right. Nope. There we go. Hang on 1 second. Let's refresh.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
Sorry about that, guys. Always happens here. I don't know why. I'll get to the bottom of it one day. But yeah. So what I've been loving doing, I don't know if you can kind of sort of see it. It's like butter. It's a Heat Rock. It's a flip side of Saturdays, which obviously I used to throw down all the time. But what I've been doing with these last streams, especially the ones that I've hopped on with Robert Smith, is really forcing myself to dig through all the B-sides of stuff that, you know, like I've had this for a couple of years now, and I've only just recently played it for the first time. And I'm like, I love this. This is dope. So yeah, feel free. You can check it out on the mix as well. And it's just an awesome, it says in brackets, RIP Fife Dog, because it's got a little bit of a remix, and yeah, it's like butter. And one of the lyrics is like butter on popcorn. So how can you not love that?
Yeah. That's great. Heat Rock's a great label, actually. They do a lot of decent edits, actually.
Yeah, and it's funny. Again, I bought that in 2020. It's one of the first shipments I did from Juno, and now that one's actually gone up in price, which is great. Yeah. But I absolutely love it.
I can't remember which one it is. Maybe Heat Rock 3 or 4 with Blind Alley.
I love that.
And then it's got Big Daddy Kane on the side. Yeah, I play that quite a lot. That's
the best. I actually only heard that one, I don't know, a few months ago. I'd missed out on that one. That's a really dope one. Next one. OG from 79? I was 1 year old. Okay, let's go. McFadden and Whitehead. Yep. Ain't no stopping us now.
Classic.
We're on the move. That just kicks in. How can you not feel good when that kicks in?
Yeah.
And I've also always loved that one because it's an original sample on one of my favorite 12s from back in the day, Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. Not Dr. Dre, West Coast Dr. Dre. You might remember Yo MTV Raps, the Dr. Dre that used to host that show. So DOCTOR, Dre. And they released a track that sampled that, and it's called Back Up Off Me. And that's always been one of my favorite songs that gets me hype, gets you going. And so, of course, I had to get the original on 7. Now, this one, the third one.
Gold digging, yes.
Okay, now this one I only just acquired from my brother from another mother. What an absolute legend who sends 3 7-inch records and just absolutely smashes it in terms of what I love. So, of course, he's sent over the Lowrider one, which is also featured in my 45-day mix. And honestly, I remember when this came out and I didn't pick it up. And it was one of those funny moments where I even mentioned it to Robert Smith. And I said, oh, bro, yeah, I really wished I had picked that one up. He goes, well, guess what's in the mail on the way to you already? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude. And he sent me these 3 for my birthday, which was in March.
Nice.
What a legend. Seriously, who does that? But the legend that is DJ Robert Smith.
I mean,
thank you, bro.
It's such a great release. And we had, I think it was that release. They did a launch party. It was mixed at East, and I think
no way.
You love to hate, isn't it? I think it is. Who does the?
Yes, I did spin that one as well.
He did a live MPC set.
That would have been dope.
Mr. Lob will tell us. I think that was recorded, so that probably is on the website. I think is that on the website, Mr. Lob? Is that on YouTube? I'm pretty sure it must be. But yeah, so that was a good one.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds dope.
Big up to a couple more people dropping in.
Hey, Josie Styles, can
Josie
I
Styles.
say,
Yeah, exactly.
she's one of the only ladies that's been holding it down as well all this time. She's one of the OGs from back in the day where there were really hardly any females doing it. But she was one of the OGs right there. Big ups to you, my sis. Absolutely love you.
She's been a big supporter of the 45 King. She's a mod for 45 Day. Couldn't quite, unfortunately, ran out of time to do a mix for 45 Day this year, but hopefully.
And I think I was meant to help her with that too. But
hopefully
then,
next year. Actually, yeah, that's right. Yeah, she mentioned she was going to possibly come to yours.
I don't think she knows, but we got real sick. Josie Styles, like I've still got the cough, if you might hear, as I'm a bit raspy today. But yeah, man, that was a killer flu, whatever that was. Thankfully not COVID, but oh man, it knocked us out. That's why our mixes were real late too. We only just put them up. Was it the weekend that just passed?
I'm not precious. We had a couple of others that was a couple of other people who didn't know about it until quite late in the day, and then obviously suddenly saw post and were like, "Oh, I've done a mix. It's 2 days late," and I was like, "You know what? Fine, doesn't matter. It's there." I'm just going to make a point because I'm going to do another little thing with we've done 45s that lift the spirits, and then there's another little mini project coming up soon, but I'll talk about that another time. But just watch this space. If you've done a 45-day mix and would like to do another one, then there's another potential one coming up before next that. Oh, Rob, yeah, we can't do the link. But we'll find that. Rob, if you can whisper that to me, I can copy it. So yeah, so the coal digging launch party, I think it's for that release. They did live from a record shop, and then we had it on the 45 Kings channel. So yeah, so they did a set.
I would have loved that.
Duke did a live MC. You can watch it back. It's brilliant.
That's dope.
And again, it's being able to do stuff like that. We had T2 Funk when they released the first Regulate recordings, 45, him and DJ Deviant did a couple of hour set. And again, they're going to come back on for Coffee and Donuts. So it's just giving a platform and being able to do this stuff.
That's amazing.
Right. The next thing we're going to do has been quite a popular thing. This is Confectionery Corner.
We need the other cam again.
We are going to
should have stayed there.
So Confectionery Corner, we started this. We've done it on almost every show, and it's occasionally caused a bit of a debate, certainly with Violet Crumble and Crunchies when Mr. Lob was on the show. But now we've got some more things. Right, before we go too far.
I didn't crunch. I was trying to make it crunch.
There's the link. Thank you, Josie. There's the link if you want to watch the coal digging launch party event that we did. Right, so you're in Australia. I said to you, why don't you have a look and see if there's any Australian sweets or confectionery that might be interesting to talk about.
Now this is where I made
stuff from the past or some
definitely, but I was going to say maybe this is where I haven't double checked if it's actually Australian or not.
It's fine.
I just went with things that I grew up with, really.
Made in the UK.
I'm going to say Whittaker's might be. I don't know. It doesn't say.
Let's start. What's that one first of all? Anyway, I can't see what that is.
All it says is may contain traces of peanuts.
Well, like everything these days.
Okay. Anyway, this is something I grew up with.
Whiz-Fizz cones.
Yep. And this is something that if I was a good girl, Mum would get me one from the store. And it was my little treat from the shop. Now, as a kid growing up that didn't really get much junk food, it was a big deal. So, shall I open it and show you what it looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I might know what they are. But let's have a look.
Oh, yeah, look, made in Australia. Yes.
Brilliant.
It's on the front. It's on the front.
Aussie. It's all right.
Made in Australia.
Oh, yeah. They got like marshmallow sort of stuff in the middle.
Yeah, and as an adult, you got to be really careful because at the bottom, so they're filled with the sherbet.
Oh, sherbet as well. Okay.
Yeah, so sherbet. Yeah, let me snap one open. So top is marshmallow. Sorry, I feel like I haven't washed my hands. What a mum. Marshmallow and sprinkles, of course. So it's just marshmallow on top. And then I feel bad doing this on my turntables. Okay, there we go. This is the part you have to be careful with. So that's just all, can you see it falling out? It's all sherbet. So you can imagine eating that as an adult and you get it everywhere. It doesn't look so good.
No. Okay, so we're already having a little bit of a debate. So Josie's saying that they had no Whiz Fizz cones when she grew up. They just had sherbet and a gammon stick. And
Oh, yeah, where you used to stick it. Yeah. I remember that.
is that like a sort of sherbet dib dab? Like we
You'd either get the stick or sometimes you had the little spoon in the packet ones. And you just shovel sherbet in your mouth, pretty much.
Yeah, so we
and
have...
Josie, they still have those. They were next to the cones in the shop last night. So those packets are still there with the little spoons.
We need to try and find those here. Yeah, because here we've got dib dabs, which is sort of like a stick with a red boiled sweet on the end that you'd sort of dip in your sherbet, or sherbet fountain, which is like a stick of licorice.
Right.
Sort of to that. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you can Mark Lancaster, you can still get them if you go to Asda. I think they do like 20p each or something like that. They're quite cheap. Well, that's good. That's a good one. What else have you got?
This was my other part of childhood. It's going to be hard to see though.
Oh, is that a whistle?
Yep, it's a melody pop.
Yes. Cool.
And so that's the other thing I would get growing up. And because what you do, how about I open it up? You can see it. Does anyone in the chat remember these?
I remember them. Yeah, I'm trying to think if.
So you open it up. You literally get sheet music inside.
Oh, I don't remember about.
Let
the
me
sheet
pull it
music.
off. Okay, it's going to be hard to see because it's clear. So let me get it on something white. So you literally see. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like sheet music there.
Yeah,
on the clear part. You've got your crotchets and semiquavers and whatnot. And then it's a whistle. So it's a whistle and you got the bit at the bottom. Oh, it's stuck. There we go. That you pull out and you can go up and down to play the melodies.
Yeah, Slim gets rad knows it. He knew it was slide whistle. Oh, that is amazing.
I used to drive my mum nuts with those.
That's like the there's a 90s band which my friends are in, and they do 90s dance music, and they do Groovers in the Heart, and the guy's got one of those like penny whistle things like that. So
yes,
doing what you were doing, so you could just do that as
you could do it with a lollipop. Yep. I do have to warn though, it gets pretty sticky and slobbery. And it's a very unique feeling once you finish one of these.
Yeah.
And that's my other childhood memory of the melody pop.
Josie said she'd get real wild when that bit fell out of the whistle.
Good, she remembers them then.
That is,
and it's such a memory.
That might be the best sweet we've had on the show.
Honestly, well, I'll have to. Can I send some over? I don't know. Is it okay to send them over in the mail? But honestly, the smell is such a memory smell.
Definitely get some of them if you send some. Honest.
I bought for Brooklyn's one of his first parties. I bought a whole box of them. It was like 50 in there for all the kids. But the smell is such a memory smell. It's almost like cotton candy smell. It's like,
nice.
Yeah, definitely like cotton candy. That's what I'm smelling. Yeah. That's my childhood right there.
That's great. So Mr. Lob is summing up Australia there. Violet crumble, slide whistles, sharks, redback spiders, and frogs.
And yep, I have been bitten
Killer
by
kangaroos.
I've survived. These are some of the talks that I have with Robert Smith. I've survived redback bites a few times. Once when I was pregnant with DJO, maybe that's why he has superpowers.
Maybe.
That explains a lot.
Am I spotting something else on your turntables? What are those
Oh yeah, sorry, I had more, but I thought you said just two. I didn't want to take over with all the sweets. Okay, let's go. All right.
I'm intrigued now. If you can.
Well, I started eating this one already. It's the summer roll.
What was that, coconut?
Yeah. Okay, I've already started this one.
That looks nice. Chocolate cigarettes.
So it's kind of like chewy in the middle, nougat type, and covered in chocolate and coconut.
Yeah, that's a winning combination. I like coconut.
Yeah, pretty yum. And this was my other childhood, except I got to say, the one that I had as a kid, I didn't buy it. I used to have the peanut slab, is what it was called. I've purchased the other two because growing up, I kind of developed an allergy to peanuts. Not so much anymore, but I just avoid them anyway now. So this is the other version, which was the coconut slab and the almond gold, as literally just a slab of chocolate with either nuts or coconut inside. And I grew up though eating the peanut ones. That's what I remember being around back then. The peanut slab. That was the OG from what I remember.
Were we discussing what were they called? Tim Tams or something?
Oh yeah, Tim Tams.
You were trying to get some, weren't you? I don't know if you managed to get some or not.
I actually, because again with Mixed Bosses, that radio show went for more than a decade. That was all done in studio on the FM dial, and we had Horace Brown in on that show, and I gave him his first Tim Tam. So that was definitely a moment for us. He enjoyed it. He liked it.
We have got a little bit of controversy. I don't know if you heard earlier, but it looks like Whittaker's is New Zealand.
I was going to say I don't think Whittaker's is Australian. That was the bit. I just sort of grabbed anything that was nostalgic for me. Yeah, made in New Zealand. Hey, who knew? Who was that? Who got it right?
Slim Gets Rad.
Hey, big ups. Is on point. I will take a bite though, if you don't mind.
Yeah. It's almost, I don't know, what time is it? It's almost 9 a.m. What time is it?
Well, I was going to say they're like neighbours. It's not Australia, but they're neighbours.
Yeah. I used to
still tastes good.
I worked in a petrol garage when I was at university, and I worked with a New Zealand guy, and he said that people would come in and say, "Oh, you're from New Zealand, you know, that's like really close to Australia." And he'd say, "Yeah, when the tide's down, you can walk across." And these people would be like, "Oh, wow, that's amazing." He'd be like, "No, it's like hours apart on a plane."
I love that. Isn't it the best? It's just like we have kangaroos and koalas in our backyards.
Yeah. Oh, that was that. I was watching because because Zizi in the 45 Kids show asked DJ O if he'd seen a koala.
And he goes, "Yes, I'm Mummy's Creola."
Yeah. I think we're almost there. It's been amazing. But just a couple of things I want to say and one little video clip we need to show. Right. I was obviously on Dusty Donuts a few weeks ago.
And yes, can I say that was like the best episode ever?
Well, yeah, for me, it was a bit of a blur. And I think I messaged you straight after. I was like, you know, what the fuck? You know, what just happened there? You know, was that all right? Was that all right? And you said,
do you know the funny thing? Great. I had you on one side saying, "Is that all right?" And then I had Robert Smith on the other side saying, "Was that all right?"
Because I think you sent me a message saying something like it's very difficult to concentrate when you've got 3 Ewoks dancing around.
The Ewok dancing was the best part. If you haven't seen it, you really have to watch the playback. Oh,
I need to actually post it. Actually, I need to watch it.
Big ups, honestly. Big ups, Mr. C, but also big ups, Mark Hype. I've never seen Mark Hype dance like that. Robert Smith, of course, Triple D, all of the fellas over there. I was just incredible. Absolutely.
You sent me this, which Robert Smith had sent me, which I think summed it up. these 3.
Is that not like exactly? That sums up the show.
I was just like, what is going on? It's one of those where I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be a great show. We're going to nerd out. We're going to talk about records. We're going to talk about 45.
And none of that happened.
And then if it wasn't for Jim Sharp, none of that would have happened.
But none of that happened, dude.
But I think it still has. I think this is probably still one of my favorite clips. I'm just going to play this one clip.
How WX cut it up on a second PE album, like the Flash soundtrack. Yep.
Gordon's alive. Yeah.
Then. Flash. Yeah.
Say it again.
Do that again. It's like one of those moments that it's just
it was the best.
It's hilarious.
And this is, mind you, this is when I was in the absolute thick of being sick.
Yeah, you were.
I'm telling you, watching that show, I was like, I wasn't sick at all. And then the next day, of course, I was sick. But yeah, that was just what an episode. It was legendary.
It was funny, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I had a fun time. You know, it's one of those you expect it to be one thing and it's something completely different.
Totally.
Right. Let me just have a look. Okay. Let me just set the raid up. While I'm setting the raid up, do you want to tell people where they can catch you next? And what
sure.
you've got coming up?
The main thing that I do each and every week is obviously the radio shows. So we have 2 radio shows that go nationwide all across Australia on FM and on digital, which includes the first hour of yours truly in the mix on 3 decks. And that's called 1200 Degrees. And it was for the CRN, which is the Community Radio Network. It was the first all mixed radio shows, surprisingly, even though they only kicked in about a year and a bit ago. And then the second one is having lovely people like the Mr. C as guests for 1212s, where I force, in a lot of cases, all these 7-inch people to get down on 12-inch. And I always get some incredible responses and feedback, and just that whole change of feeling. And for me, though, something that I love doing through 2020 is going down, I guess, memory lane, or walk down memory lane via the records that are in this room. And that's something that I really wanted to share with everyone. So it's not just about forcing them onto 12s, but also just for them to have that, walk down memory lane and enjoy the journey of putting a mix together with maybe some of the records that they haven't touched in a long time. So in some cases they might.
True, yeah, because I'm looking at a load of 12s and albums there that I very rarely look at, or play. I'm just going to pick up on I think obviously my joke about New Zealand, and Slim Gets Rad says he told US people there was a lane for wildlife on the Harbour Bridge.
Well, in one way it's kind of true. Depends on how you define wildlife.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Hey, Mr. C setting up a raid. What happened, dude? I thought we were going to have a bit of a scratch session.
Oh, yeah.
He's not ready.
No, I've got a record ready. I can. I just don't know if I want to embarrass myself again like last time. But...
No pressure. For those that don't already know, on the episode that he had, DJ Robert Smith, it turned quickly from a chat into a scratch
lesson. Okay, let me get a record.
Are you sure? No pressure.
Ray can wait. If people can tune out, they can go somewhere else if they don't like it.
All right, guys, let's go. DJ Josie style scratch battle.
Are we doing it without a beat or?
Yeah. Should we just do it without the beat? Just keep it, like you said, copyright free.
Keep it. It's Robert Smith's very cool scratch record. If you haven't got it, try and pick it up. The Cure. Obviously, that's who he's named after, the Robert Smith from The Cure. But yeah, this is good. And there is another one coming out at some point when the pressing plants get back into action.
Yes, that's been in the works for a little while.
Yeah, so let's
There's
use
massive delays.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so do you remember what you learned with Rob?
No.
I think it was baby scratch from memory. I think he showed you how to baby scratch, and he might have showed you how to chirp from memory.
Something like that. Let me get, what do we want?
Just get your, if you can find that normal R sound.
Yeah. Okay, we got it.
That one. Yep. Okay. So,
is that loud enough for you?
Yeah, perfect. Was mine okay too? I didn't check levels before. Loud enough?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Since we were talking about transforming, I thought, why not show you the transformer scratch?
Well, you've got the overhead camera. Maybe let's try that.
Let's do it. Okay. So basically what you're doing is you're using the fader to cut the sound into more than one sound. Josie Styles, my baby scratches are dope. Now, there's literally truth in that, because without a dope baby scratch, you can't do much else. So, that's real important. When I was learning, the person that was sort of, I had a couple of lessons and then I just broke away and did my own thing. But those couple of lessons, all I learned was the baby scratch. So, it is a very important foundation. Now, do you remember how to do the baby scratch?
It's just back and forth, isn't it?
That's it. Go for it. That's it. That's the baby scratch. All right. So then what you're doing with a transformer is you're cutting the sound. So I won't cut it yet. I'll just do it normal. So that's a normal forward, normal back. Forward, normal back. Now what you're going to do is halfway through that movement, you're going to cut the sound. Okay, so I'll just step away from the mic just to do it. So you're literally cutting it in two.
It's just the pressure, but yeah, hold on.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Hey, he's a pro already. Look at that. And then what you do, you work different patterns and you can build it up. So that's obviously changing the patterns. But that forward and back, that's your basis for everything. So you had it. You had it there with the 2 forward, 2 back. Hey! Look at Mr. C go.
I can do a little bit.
Dude, that was awesome.
I just need to know what they are and learn what they had to sort of describe them. And
look, you got 3 now. Can I tell you the truth? I don't use much more than 3 at a time. Yeah. You know, once you've got those 3, you can do a lot already with different patterns and whatnot. So, yay! We got him beat.
Cut class is coming on in a couple of weeks, I think, and I think he's
awesome.
Showing me a few things as well.
I'll link in for that one for sure.
Cool. I didn't make a complete fool of myself this time.
That was dope, dude. That was amazing. Hey, let's give it up one time in the chat for Mr. C. Put the ones up.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Legend.
I need to get one of those. I haven't got Serato sorted out on this because I'm using an old computer, but I need those things where they press the buttons and they go, DJ Criztoz, DJ and all the claps and all the rest of it.
You totally. Yeah. Apart from the drops, I actually kind of avoid the buttons a little bit. Again, it was another female, maybe a female thing. I don't know. But when I did the buttons in DMCs, I got dissed. So ever since then, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm keeping it to the wax.
Right. I am going to do the raid. And then we'll have a quick chat afterwards if you've got 5 minutes.
Yeah. Right on time, too. Thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Let me see. How's that raid work? There we go. I think that's no go. Right. So we talked about playing music at the wrong speed. So Slow Mo Monday with Don Champ Sound and Barty Cuts, and they also have a special guest. I don't know who the special guest is today, but we may just check. I better just double check he's still going. Yeah, it looks like he's still going. So that's cool. Thank you so much, Dee. It's been brilliant. It's been 2 hours, amazing stuff. So many cool stories, amazing vibes, and thank you so much for coming on the show. I think this is the 3rd time we've done one of these now. So thank you so much. Everyone give it up for DJ D. If you want to watch it back, it will be on YouTube very soon, probably tomorrow. It'll be on Mixcloud to listen back to if you want to, and it'll probably be on Twitch for a couple of weeks. And make sure you go to YouTube because all the shows are there, including the 45 Kids talk show we were talking about earlier. And
big love to everyone in the chat too. I'm seeing all the comments popping up. Much love.
If you are around tomorrow night, I'm talking to Miss Soul Turner from Colombia, who I've only recently connected with, but she got the #1 soul mix with her 45-day mix in the Mixcloud chart. So I'm going to be really interested to see what 7s she picks out tomorrow. We're back to being able to play stuff tomorrow, so it'll be great. But yeah, big up everyone. Thank you everyone in the chat. Thank you for all the support, and we will see you all very soon. I think we'll be about to raid out very soon. Big up to Josie Styles for being my mod. Big up to Mr. Lob. Big up to everyone else. Take it easy.